Hello, book world.
Hello, welcome. If it's your first time here, please do hit that subscribe button. Ring the bell. You know what to do. Welcome to the book bar.
Yes, I'm Sarah, and this is Christy. And we have a fun author to talk with today.
And fellow Houstonian.
Yes, Elle, who wrote Wings of Ebony.
Woo! There she is.
Very good. Awesome book. It's going to be very exciting. First, we will, as always, play you her trailer.
Shine bright like a diamond. Shine bright like a diamond.
I love that you put that song in there.
Shine bright like a diamond.
So, World JL, welcome to the book bar. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
We are here to talk about not only Wings of Ebony, but you've got a new book baby coming out.
Ash is doing the right way because I think
I think you're good. And Ashes of Gold is coming out January. Is that correct?
January 11th. Yes, you can pre-order it now. I have a fun pre-order campaign. I'm doing a few flash campaigns because I feel like the holidays are always fun to do shopping and stuff. So, it's coming out January 11th. I'm very excited and super nervous, but the final iteration of Rue's story.
So it's like, is it almost to the day when Wings of Ebony came out in January of this year, right? So it's like,
yeah, my oldest kid's birthday.
Oh wow!
That's sweet, right?
That's
my
cool.
Kid too. So the day I became a book mom and the day I became a kid mom.
Yeah, wow. And I follow you on TikTok, and there's that pinned video of yours where you're opening the box. Yeah, it makes me. I mean, it's your face. Look how beautiful. Right there.
I knew it was going to be emotional. I've seen these books, videos before, but I was like, well, the writing community has been so present for me. Like, I have to show them my reaction. And so I really thought I had it together. Like, I really did. I'm an emotional person. I'm a Cancer. I cry easy. But that surprised me, like the depth of holding it. It was just, so it'll be interesting. When I get my finished copies of this one, I will certainly record it and we'll see how it goes.
Yes, please do. We're excited. So we're super excited for you because we're in Houston.
Yes.
And you are a fellow Houstonian. Now, we're transplants, but we've both been down here. Well, you've been here longer. Oh. I moved here in 2005.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. I don't know when I came. But
yeah. You went to
90s, 1990, I don't know.
Ish, 1990s-ish.
5, 7. When did I graduate? Anyways.
Too long ago for us.
High school. I was here for junior and senior year of high school, so that's how far back.
And then you're a first-generation college student, and I'm looking at your bio here from Wings of Ebony. I'm very much interested to hear your personal story and then kind of bleed it into your publishing story. But I really want it because I think so much of Rue and her character and her home and where she grew up stems from you, little personal experiences. So I really want to hear if you're willing to tell it, kind of your personal story, and then kind of go into publishing as well.
Sure. I'm not sure where you want me to start, but I grew up in Houston in the Third Ward area. That's where my family, still lives. And I attended a private school for a little while on a scholarship. And I remember just as a really young kid feeling like there was a distinct, I went to school with like the richest kids in Houston. Houston's a major city. There are lots of wealthy families here.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to school with like the CEO's, kids on scholarship. And I just remember at a very young age feeling this very wide disparity between like what I had access to as a kid and like what the kids in my neighborhood had access to. I was very aware of it at a very early age because I went to school in one place and I lived somewhere else. In fact, my mom pulled me out of that school for many, many reasons in fifth grade. Yeah, for my mental health. She was just like, this is not good for you. She was like, it's good for you academically, but it's not good for you in any other way. And she was seeing it just eroding me because I didn't see myself at school. I didn't see myself in the curriculum. I was called expletives as my nickname every day. And so she pulled me out of there and she put me in the school. I was zoned to the school down the street where all my neighborhood friends went. And it was a very different experience for a lot of reasons. There were things I loved about it. There were things that were very challenging. Academically, I remember walking into the classroom. Well, first of all, the classes were much larger. And I was just like a 12-year-old kid. So these were not things that I really understood the weight of until a lot later in life.
Sure.
But I remember they were learning what I had learned in third grade, and it was a sixth grade classroom. And I remember being bored and becoming a behavior problem because I was bored. But the biggest thing I remembered is that the school felt like home in a way that nothing else ever had. And I didn't have words for that back then, but I understand it's because I was surrounded by my community, around people who looked like me, around people who had similar lived experiences as I did. And there was a comfort to that, and it gave me a peace that I didn't have. And I don't regret my time in public school or private school by any means. I actually think I was very fortunate to experience both of them. But I have analyzed and analyzed and analyzed that time in my life for decades afterward because it left such a formative impact on me. In high school, I decided to go to a magnet high school because I wanted to work in politics and I wanted to make education policy my platform because I was just so deeply just impacted by the disparity between the quality of education. And I didn't understand what the core of those issues were at the time. I just knew I wasn't okay with it and I wanted it to change. So I decided I was going to college, which isn't something that anybody in my family had done. But my grandmother, who was raising me at the time, my mom's mother, who Miss Leola, personality wise, is modeled after.
We want to go eat with her.
I figured there was a lot of connection in the character.
No, there is. And Miss Leola is named after my mother's mother, but her personality is my grandmother that raised me. And she was very supportive. I told her, I looked up all the different schools. I told her I wanted to go out of state, and she was like, I don't know how you think you're going to pay for that. But I was just obstinately stubborn, if you wonder where we got it from. And it's like someone would tell me, I don't know how you're going to do this, or you can't do that. I'm just like, watch me. Like, this is me as a teenager. So I applied at the time. HBCUs were not on my radar. My school, my magnet high school, didn't do a big focus on them at all. The schools that we mainly heard about were sort of big state schools and then like Ivy Leagues. And so I decided to apply to the big state school. I was gunning to be in my top 10% because if you're in the top 10% of your high school class in Texas, you're automatically accepted to all the Texas state schools. And so I was like, okay, that's my ticket. So long story short, I ended up applying to a bunch of different schools, including just schools out of state too. And I ended up going to the University of Texas. And I started there with a focus on all kinds of things like psychology. And then I was pre-med for a while. And then I came back to my sort of interest in politics and did some focus on journalism. In college, I was just kind of finding my way. I went from what should I major in for financial security to what am I good at? And what I liked to do was to write, to tell stories, to get to know people, and to tell their stories. And so that led me to journalism, which was night and day. It saved my GPA because pre-med was going to flunk me out. Like organic chemistry is the great equalizer. It was just like, do not go any further. And I'm like, okay, I'm out. So I was like, I can either flunk out of college or I can be the first graduate of college. And it was interesting because I felt like I was letting my family down to a degree. They never said that, but when I went to college and I was the first, I was like, I should pursue something that is, sort of like respected and like prestigious and is sort of in that box of what fancy kids do. So it's like I could be a doctor or a lawyer. And so I was a pre-med major who founded a pre-law nonprofit for aspiring law students because I didn't want to have to choose. I wanted to keep my options open. So I was just like dabbling in both because I created the nonprofit and I worked with a lot of students who were headed to law school. And then my major was chemistry pre-med. So yeah, that lasted for a whole year before I was like, a whole years before I was like, okay, this is a plan to fail. Because I wasn't making my decisions from a place of what I wanted to do. And fortunately, I decided to just, step out on a limb and pursue journalism. And the journalism school there is very difficult to get in. At that time, I had a terrible GPA because thanks to pre-med. And I will never forget the dean telling me, I just got to be honest with you, like you don't have the GPA to transfer in here. I was like, well, I have everything else. And she let me in with like a 2.0. And I think the average getting was like a 3.8. It's an, internal college transfer. So I transferred to the communication college and I was an A student from then on. Like, it's like I found what I loved. I dabbled in photojournalism, print journalism, broadcast journalism. I anchored the news for a little bit in college, broadcast to like the whole city, which is kind of weird. And then I graduated and my college boyfriend ended up becoming my husband and he joined the military. So we moved around and eventually I became a mom. We moved like 10 times in 11 years or more.
And he's a Marine, correct?
He flew fighter jets.
Oh, my husband's a Marine.
Yes. Yeah. Air Force, cool. She's Marine.
So yeah, I mean, we're out now, but like that was a formative process in my life too, because it was another time where I was like moving, right, and getting to know new places and new people and seeing different parts of the country and the things that were unique to those places. And I realized how much the privilege to move around, like how beneficial that is. And I would think about like the first time I visited the beach in person, like in California, or the first time I saw really blue, pretty water, and like what those experiences are like if you could have them as a kid, which I couldn't.
Not Galveston.
Galveston does not count, as we all know.
Not blue.
I just developed this this appreciation for like experience. And I always went back to like the root of all of this is like education. Like I have choices now that like my mother did not have and my father did not have, et cetera, because of my education. And so I taught for a little while. I ran a school. I got a master's in educational administration. And then we're moving around, so it's impossible to get a job. And then I decided, to volunteer at a local high school and spend time with kids. And we decided to do a YA book club. And, one day I was just like, I'm going to write a book. I don't even know how to write a chapter, but I'm going to write a book. And the story just poured out of me. It just poured out of me. I joined Twitter. I found critique partners.
Is this Wings of Ebony or is it a different story?
That's Wings of Ebony. I joined Twitter. I was playing around with the first scenes that I started writing on paper were not Wings of Ebony scenes. There were scenes that were like waking me up out of my sleep from something else. But they were very detached and not really a complete story. The characters were all adult. It was a medieval world. And I just remember I was playing around with, I didn't even know how to do beat tags, like comma, quotation, he said, I didn't know how to do that. Like I knew nothing. I knew nothing other than what a good story feels like and like what a character that you want to love feels like on the page. Like I understood that instinctually, but that was all. And the rest I learned from Twitter. So anyway, I eventually put that away and I was like, I think I want to try to publish a book. And that's when I was like, okay, Wings of Ebony, YA, this is the story. And that poured out of me in 35 days. When we were actually...
What?
I'm
Hold
sorry.
on.
Pause.
Yeah.
So, how many words?
Like 70 to 74,000 words.
Is that, did I read that you wrote that in a hotel room?
I did. We were TAD since you're military. You understand? My husband was getting sent to Coronado, if you've ever been there. And I was like, you're not leaving me in the desert. We're coming with you to this hotel on this beach. And in that hotel on that beach, I wrote most of it.
In 35 days. Wow.
Yeah. Do I need to close am I getting too much sunlight?
Oh,
maybe
a
a
little.
No,
Righty. Yeah.
Hold on. There we go. Nope.
Wow.
That's
Okay. All right. I've got my notebook up. Okay, tell me what the secret is.
But I also need to know, was your child or children in that hotel room with you
had
also?
to be.
yes. And I was
And there's 3.
And you wrote with children
Three.
They were little.
in one
They were
room.
little. But this is first of all, the lady at the desk, I still remember the lady at the front desk at this hotel. It was a military base hotel. So, it's priced really well. And the military was paying for it. And I remember telling her, her name was Jessica. I was like, my name was Jessica. I'm trying to write a book in this hotel room. I need you to give me one of the best locations you have with access to the playground. She put me on the playground, y'all. Like when I opened the door, it was ocean and massive playground, like 15 steps from my room. So literally, and it's Coronado, so the weather's perfect every day. Literally, the door was open. The kids were playing. They would come in for food, the bathroom, and they would just run right back out. Yes, it was a disastrous cleanup at the end of the day, covered in like sand. They keep bringing random hotel friends their meeting. Like, this is my friend. I was like, I don't know who this is.
Mommy's writing. So and that's important because Sarah and I are both moms, and I think there's a lot of moms out there who's they're hesitant to be able to move forward because they cannot find the silence. So yes, please tell us.
Well, this is what I'll say. And I'm trying to say this sensitively, but like, we don't get silence. Like it's a joke, right? If you need silence to write, I'm sorry. If you are accustomed to living in the chaos and somehow getting dinner made and somehow folding laundry, you would be shocked what you can accomplish if you just like, okay, I'm not going to wait for a quiet room. I'm going to sit on the couch while they're building this fort and destroying my living room. And I'm going to make sure no one gets hurt with my right eye, and with my left eye, I'm going to... I'm so serious. Like, it's in the box of things that you're like, somehow I get it done and it's chaos around me. If you put it in that box, and that doesn't work for everybody. Some people need quiet, and that's fair. But I was just like, look, y'all are going to, here's pizza for dinner and breakfast if you want it. Okay. Live a little. We're making memories.
I bet your kids love when mommy's on a deadline now.
You're also really little. So like I'm corralling like a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. And the 5-year-old already thinks she's like the second mom. So it's really just like, are all the sharp corners covered? I can reach either of them with like an arm. And I just sit there and focus. Again, that doesn't work for everybody, but for me,
inspirational.
I just stopped waiting for the time and I just did it because that's what we do as moms. When are you going to have time to make dinner? I don't know, but everybody's going to get fed somehow.
Open up a can soup.
Hey, people get fed. We figure it out. So put your writing in the figure it out box.
I love that. No, that needed to be heard. So moms across the world, don't wait because you're not going to get it.
I ended up rewriting that entire book, but it was worth it because I couldn't rewrite it until I had like written a bad version to see what I was trying to do.
Sure, yeah. You got to go through the process.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you submitted that to Pitch Wars, right? Or no? Yes?
No. The book was just smattering of ideas in my head that was adult, that's what I sent to Pitch Wars. And in hindsight, and I love the Pitch Wars committee. It's run by one of my dear friends. And now in hindsight, I'm like so embarrassed. I'm like, I cannot believe I sent you that smattering of scenes. I don't even think you could call it a book. Anyway, but obviously I didn't get into that. But as I was waiting to hear back, there were people talking about Write the Wait. And I was like, okay, I'm going to obsess over my inbox or I'm going to do something productive. So I decided to sit down and do literally that trip. I was like, this is perfect. I won't be home, so I can't obsess about cleaning or anything at home. Like, you're removed from home. So it's like I can vacation or write. I am not suggesting if you are stuck on a hotel or on a beach that you should not relax.
To even be stuck in a hotel on a beach.
If you are in a place in your life where you're trying to push out a novel, it might work.
It might work.
I think it would, just to open the door. Oh yeah, the computer would be on the lap for sure. Just that beauty,
Yeah.
Well, and your husband was also busy. That's the other thing. Gotta.
Busy. And you have a maid, basically.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, if I could give my kid or my child, my daughter, a park, my husband was gone.
Oh my gosh, that's what? Forget the kids.
Right. I can handle it. It's the neediness.
He knows I'm on deadline because he's like, oh, she's on deadline. Like he gets it. He didn't get it at first because, but once you sell a book, he's like when you really think about it, like one day I got on social media and now there's going to be a book on a shelf. Like when you put those two dots together, it's kind of mind blowing.
Yeah.
And so he was like, wow, I guess we're doing this. And then, it was time for him to decide stay in or get out. And he decided to get out, because we were gonna focus on pursuing my dream now, and that's what we're doing. I work full time, and he's a grad student at Rice.
Nice. I love that campus.
Oh my gosh! Don't you just want to
I just want to sit there.
I just want to, yeah, in the air. Like I just want to. The whole vibe is like.
Yes. I took a creative writing class there, and I never wanted to leave. Like I would linger to the point they were like, "You should go." Start now.
There's things waiting for me at home. Like
I know, right?
I don't want to go there. I want to stay
right here
with my Starbucks and just me.
Creative writing class. I love learning. I miss college.
Yes.
Yeah. We did some master classes. If you've ever checked out those.
I tried.
But yeah, you kind of pretend like you're in college. Get your little notebook out, and Dan Brown tells you all of the ins and outs of everything.
Dan Brown knows a lot, so,
You learn how to sing by Christina Aguilera.
That's true. I would never learn how I could. It's past my window.
Never say never. Never say never.
So what was the moment? Because I know there's got to be where you're kind of like, we talked earlier before we went live about when you're writing and you just don't have any confidence and you're like, what am I doing? This probably sounds horrible. But what was the moment when you were writing Wings of Ebony that you were like, oh yeah, this is it? Or did you even have that moment maybe until you started queer?
As in, this is going to be the book to make it, or this is the story I want to tell?
The story you want to tell. It was just, that was it.
From the first line.
Yeah.
From the very first line. It started with an image in my head of a girl standing over a body on the pavement. And I knew the neighborhood around her was my neighborhood. And I just remember her being very sad. And she felt very powerless to stop it. This was in 2018. My book came out in 2021 after we lived through the summer of 2020. Mm-hmm. But I just remember when I saw her in my head, I didn't know her name. I didn't know anything about her. I just knew that she was grieving and she felt powerless. And I wanted to put power in her hands. And that's where the story really started.
So you started querying and you had a pretty good callback rate.
I did div pit, which was very helpful because my book, Wings of Ebony, pitches well. Like it's a very high concept pitch. It has good comps. The Hate You Give meets Wonder Woman.
Right.
So I put that into DivPit is a Twitter pitch contest where you like post like one little tweet about what your story is and you hashtag it, and then agents will come through looking for that genre or age category and they'll request pages from you. So it's kind of a way to skip ahead in the inbox.
Yeah.
And my tweet was the most tweeted pitch that day. I got hundreds and hundreds of tweets. I had editors, like actual editors at publishing houses, were asking, "Can I see this once it's done? Once you get an agent, can I see this?" Because you're supposed to pitch it after it's done. But anyway, so I ended up querying and getting several rejections and many, many, many rejections, some of which still stick with me. Some I've gone back and read on my release day because it just shows you that the industry is very subjective.
Yeah.
And there are gatekeepers, and to their credit, because I did intern for a couple agencies for a while. I wanted to get intern experience and agency experience and see kind of what it was like on that side of publishing. But like to their credit, if they don't understand a book or they don't connect to a book or they don't see what the writer's trying to do, it's not necessarily going to be easy to sell for them. So they would be doing a disservice to the writer in a lot of cases if they were to take on a story that they don't fully support or understand or know how to help revise. And so I realize in hindsight, some of the rejections come from that. But
for my list.
Yep, for that one.
and then there are also rejections that you get because an agent honestly feels bad, like asking you to make all these changes. And in my head, I'm like, look, I don't pretend to know everything. I wrote this book in a month. I don't know what's wrong with it. I want you to tell me what's wrong with it so I can fix it. In general, I have found most agents, not all, but most agents, or a lot of agents, I should say, will come at your work differently. They'll come at it with sort of or at least try to come at it with respect for what you're trying to do. And if they don't get that, then they'll just kind of step aside. Now, not all agents are like that. There's some predatory ones, there's some schmagent ones, but I've been very fortunate to work with two agents, my current agent who I love obsessively, and my first agent who's very, very good to me as well. So it's finding the right fit that's important.
Yeah, because I thought I saw that you have one agent, but then I thought, who is that? Yeah, Jody Reamer. Was it Jody Reamer that's an agent?
That's my current agent, yes.
You are up there with
20. Girl.
She's
a dream.
Count how many times we've submitted to
I
her.
never, well, it says her little
right, but
Alex.
it has to go through all the people.
Alex is her assistant. Yeah, that's amazing.
I have a friend repped by Alec. Alec is great. Shane, right?
Yes, yes.
I've heard great things about Alec.
Well, congrats on that. That is awesome.
So how does that work? Because I saw an interview with you, and you talked about, and it makes sense now hearing your backstory on how you knew legal stuff and all that kind of stuff, because you were talking very like you knew a lot about how with your contract and how to not don't get pigeonholed in this one area and make sure that you can get to it. And I'm like, how do you even know all that stuff? I'm like, I just want someone to be like, will you be my agent? Yes, okay. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yes. Dating. I'll say this. It's my journalist instinct, right? Because that was the thing I fell in love with in college was journalism, and it's because I have this thirst for information. Some people get overwhelmed when they get really long emails. I like to read them obsessively and eat popcorn. I love information, so I ask a ton of questions, which honestly annoys a lot of people. But I'm just one of those really annoying, inquisitive people because I love to learn and understand the intricacies of how things work. And fortunately, I have a few friends that put up with me. But I just ask and ask and ask and ask so many questions. If I get the opportunity to talk to someone who knows about the publishing industry, and they're like, feel free to reach out. You know how when you attend events, they're like, here's my email, please reach out. And then nobody in the audience says, I'm the one who does.
Nice.
I'm the one who's like, hi, you said I could reach out. I have 35 questions. I also like to, but I'm always opportunities to connect with people and just to learn more, because there's so much to learn. And even now, I don't know everything. There's so many things I don't know. And I love learning those kinds of things. So I just asked a lot of questions. And with my first agent, that was one of the things I talked to her about on the call. I was like, I ask a lot of questions and I completely understand that some people find that annoying. It's a personality thing and some people hate it. Is that okay? And she was totally fine with it. So when I was agented with her for, I don't remember exactly how long it was, but almost 2 years, when I was agented with her, I remember anything I wanted to know or understand, I asked. I didn't worry about upsetting her. I didn't worry about her feeling some kind of way because I went into the relationship. I had multiple agent offers. I went into the relationship saying, I want to learn the industry. I like to know. I didn't grow up in a childhood where I could just like blindly trust anyone. So maybe some of this is rooted in my own trauma, but I'm not used to people handling things for me. Like I handle things for myself. And I realized that when you have an agent, you have to let them handle it. But going into that relationship, my first agent was very, very understanding that I had a lot of questions. And she was really gracious with me and let me ask those questions. By the time I got to my second agent, I didn't have any more questions. Jody is more than happy to answer them. She knows so much. Oh my gosh. But I have found after my first book is out in the world, the veil has kind of been removed. So I'm not as curious about things. Like I've kind of gone through one cycle. So I don't know that I'm as obsessive about questions, but I was in the beginning. And I just wanted to understand the industry I was walking into. I don't like feeling like I'm in a room where I don't know what's going on. Like I want to understand what's going on, at least on some level, so I can engage thoughtfully.
Yeah. Well, and so Wings of Ebony is published, and then all of a sudden, you wake up one day and it's Christmas in January because you just made the bestseller list. What was that like?
Of my life. So much anxiety that week. Gosh, it was a really fun week. 2 weeks before my book came out, I had trouble getting out of bed because I was just so worked up at the anticipation. I worked so hard. I rewrote that book more times than I can count. The version on shelves is like, if I count copy and line edits, is draft 19. And that's in the span of like 18 months. So, or not like 14 months because there's a gap where it's going to print. So like the workup and like all of the pressure, because at the same time, I remember how public my div pitch was. I remember, I just know what this book means or could mean to my community, what it could mean to girls from Third Ward, to my sisters who are 14 and 15. Like, I wanted the book to make it to shelves, and I felt an immense amount of pressure on me for this book to come out and do well, because if it does well, it creates sort of a publishing facing argument that stories like these deserve to be told. And it shouldn't require that. We shouldn't have to defend our right to tell our story. But there's only so much space on a shelf, and that's just the way publishing works because it's a business. And so what I loved about it was not seeing my name up there, which was of course a cherry on top, but it was that a story like this, as unapologetic as it is, as fiery as Rue is, how she doesn't apologize for who she is, and how she takes care of her community, for that to be loved so publicly that it would land on the bestseller list was just, it just means so much. It means so much for books after her, and I think that's what just it still gets me teary eyed.
Well, I'm an educator of middle schoolers, and so I personally want to thank you because I work in a Title I school. And so the biggest problem that my kiddos have is finding books with characters that look like them or come from backgrounds like theirs. And there is still not enough. So as a teacher, I want to thank you for putting something out there for them. Stop it. Stop it. But I do, because they go into the library, which they can't go to Barnes & Noble and buy books. They don't have the money to. But they go into the libraries and they still have a hard time finding books that they can relate to. So I really do appreciate you and Rue for being, somebody that they can connect to. So thank you.
Thank you. That means the world to me. I used to teach middle school for a little bit, so I hear you. I hear you. My computer trying to put my book down.
Yeah, and I used to work in the Third Ward. I worked off of Scott Street in 59, and I was down there for probably about 2 years, and I've got a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
students that I worked with, and spent time in their neighborhoods, and it was just like revisiting all that and reading the book and stuff. I'm like, yep, that is what.
Right, Scott Street and right there between like U of H and 610.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, when you talked about the theater off 59, I was
Oh,
like,
there's so many. I was
like-
like, oh.
Why are there cars up there? Why? I always thought it was fun.
I had a bunch of highlights because I was like, okay, I know that it was probably like not the particular name of a place, but I was like, oh, look at all this inspiration from Houston. But one thing that was kind of an off the wall question that I wanted to ask you, is there any like places that you love to eat that are, we go to the
It is off the wall. It's always on topic, okay, with me. Always. There are so many places. First of all, understand that I left Houston at 17 and I didn't come back for another 17 years.
Oh my goodness.
So I left at 17 to go to Austin, and then from there I went to California, and then we moved all over. And then I came back in 2020, in the summer of 2020, while I was writing the sequel. I wrote this book during the summer of 2020, if anyone remembers what was happening during this.
Yeah, vaguely.
It was, yeah, it's like seared into my memory. And it was just a very draining time. Anyway, I digress. But so food, yes. But my point though is that when I left as a 17-year-old, like I'm getting to know Houston now as an adult for the first time, because it was different, when I was 17. The places that I would go eat when I skipped school, because I did a lot. So that, I'm telling you, man, when I was bored,
That's relatable. See, you can kids who are really, looking towards their futures, that see, we were all kids once too.
Mm-hmm.
Really? Like no shade. Although if my kids are watching, y'all better be at school.
Right. Go to school.
Y'all.
Yeah, I mean, I used to teach 6th through 8th grade also, and so I mean, and we both taught special ed,
Mm-hmm.
so I mean, it was like the opposite in that, like you kids that are GT. Christy
Mm-hmm.
taught GT for a little bit, like kids that are GT. I mean, like if you don't keep them engaged, then all of a sudden they do become
Yeah.
like a problem
They
kids.
do.
Like you said, you were bored. I mean, and it's not that they're bad kids. It's
No.
that you have to keep kids engaged, whether you're trying to, teach them at a lower level than they're actually the grade level they're in, or you're trying to teach them upper level material. I mean, like,
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like kids crave stimulation.
Mhm.
So if they don't
Even
have
more
it,
so now. I mean, they constantly have phones. They're
I
constantly
feel like
stimulated.
crave stimulation too, right? Like we're hard on kids, but at the same time, like how often are we on our phones?
I know.
No,
What I say, not as I do.
Interview over.
Hey, Jones, I'm talking to myself here. Okay, never. But I feel like they look for stimulation when they don't have any flash. I mean, that's hard, right? Teachers have, especially teachers with huge classes. Like I had 32 to 34 when I was teaching my classes. That's a lot. There was a kid in my class who was reading on a college level, and at the end of the year, I got to know his mother really well. They were so close; they came to my wedding. He escorted my grandmother down the aisle. Close. Like I love their family. But at the end of the year, I was like, "You need to pull him out of this school. This is not like I." Literally, towards the end of the year, he would sit at my desk, and I would give him an encyclopedia, and he would just write me a paper by the end of class. Like that was his assignment. Because I taught science, and he was just like, "Can I just read this book, the encyclopedia?" Yes, you can. Go right ahead. It's gonna have a lot more than I do. Promise.
Just make sure you don't use those words with me, because I won't know what they are.
Exactly. I don't know. But anyway, so I mean, teachers have a lot on their shoulders.
Yes, no, they do. They come to, I mean, I've got kids. So.
Especially now.
Oh, yeah. And technology doesn't always really have. It's a blessing and a curse. But it is what it is, I guess. Well, I, for one, loved your story. And again, thank you. But I do have one bone to pick with you.
Gloves are coming off.
This girl has been through so much in her life. And here I am just reading along, doing my thing, reading.
Coming.
And then you went and you killed off And a very important character.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, I was like, I'm sitting here because I listened to it. I don't have time to sit and
I have to go. I'm sorry.
yeah. I listened to it, and you know, I mean, of course, now I believe that Rue sounds like the audio person. There's no other. There's no other voice that she has. So if I have to listen, you know, if I listen to, you know, Ashes of Gold, it has to be the same voice. Or I'm gonna be like, I don't even know who's talking to me.
Who are you?
Who is this? But
Like,
yeah,
liar,
I'm
you
sitting
know.
there like in the pickup line for
I'm
my daughter, and I'm
so
like, yeah,
I texted her and I was like, what is happening?
right. Because we're never typically when we're reading novels
Never.
for an interview, we're never around the same place at the same time. Because she's like I said, she's a much faster reader, and it takes me 800 years. So, but we were pacing along the same time this time, and so yeah, we were both like, she got me today.
I'm still
She got me
upset about
today.
it.
With the flashbacks and the like could have beens, and I was like,
and we were just getting there with them
I
too.
know.
That the first time, like a couple of chapters ago. Yeah. So first off, I'm always gonna write stories that make you feel things.
Yeah,
So-
we felt it.
No, in all seriousness, it was a really difficult decision for a lot of reasons. A lot of what I was exploring in that book was some of my own animosity towards my own father, and then I wanted Rue. I wanted Rue to understand that she could stand on her own, and I wanted her to believe, without a doubt, that her father loved her. And I didn't think, as hard nosed as she is and as hard headed as she would believe it with words.
Mhm.
I was in a plot situation where she needed help when I realized that hard headed Rue, the only thing to stop her from questioning her father's love for her would be his complete sacrifice.
Mhm.
And so that's what he did. And I think for him, because Naomi, her mother, wasn't there either. And I know this is so like morbid, but I love to imagine that her parents are like together.
Mhm.
So it's hard on Rue, and it it gets harder in book 2.
Okay. I need to mentally prepare myself. It gets harder.
I just needed her to know for the rest of her life, without a doubt. This is so emotional. See, this was hard for me. Like when writers do these things, us too, because like you're trying to do what feels true to the story and like what the character needs and like what feels right, but it like rips your heart out. I sob. This is not this book. I sob every time I read that. And I mean not just like, oh, I mean ugly stuttering cry every time.
Why did I do that?
It's like I needed her to know without a doubt for the rest of her life, without a doubt. Like I didn't want her to work her way into it. I wanted her to know
Mhm.
that her father loved her. There was no doubt in her mind, and she knows that.
Yeah. Well, it was a really good scene.
well
Well
done.
You'll never forget that moment.
Mhm.
Well, and as so we'll talk a little bit about Ash as much as you can. As loveless as she is felt with her father at the beginning of Wings of Ebony. So, what do we feel in Ashes of Gold? What are we gonna feel, Jay, in Ashes of Gold?
I'll say this, and I will say this based on, obviously it's my book, so I'm like, oh yeah, I did a good job. I'm proud of myself. It's not perfect, nothing ever is, but I'm like, okay, I did another book. Wow, yay me. But I'm actually going to say, objectively speaking, based on just sort of like how I'm seeing it received, I think it's rare when a sequel is as compulsively readable as the first book. Like, I think there are distinct series that we can count on a few hands where it's like, okay, I loved that sequel as much as I love the first one. Because there's something new about a first book. Like, it's a new world, it's a new character. And then in the second book, just depending on how it's executed or your investment in the world or whatever, it can be tricky. I fundamentally believe that this book is as compulsively lovable, if not more. as the first one, which is what I wanted to accomplish. I think it's extremely memorable, and I love that the central thread in it, which I don't think is a spoiler, I think you can tell just from reading the copy, is that Rue is learning to understand all that she is worthy of.
Mm-hmm.
And I love using love to explore that. It's just, there's a lot of very sweet pieces in here where you peel back. Because it's like, where do you take, at the end of this book, Rue seems invincible. And it's like, where do I take her?
Mm-hmm.
And it was really important for me. I want people, especially kids who identify with Rue, to believe that they're invincible. But I want people coming to this book as a window and not necessarily a mirror to understand that she still has vulnerabilities.
Mm-hmm.
And kids don't stop growing at like 17 once they did
Right.
something really cool. Like she still has a long way to go. And so I really had to dig into her and figure out, where does she need to grow?
Mm-hmm.
If I look at the roots of her trauma, what is she going to struggle with? And she is just trying to understand her worthiness entirely. And I love that Julius and Jamal are a part of that story at different times and in different ways.
So, one thing I thought was super cool, and I just love how I would love to come up how you came up with this idea, but like, I love the concept of the costumes like becoming one with your body, like all of a
cool.
sudden you are.
Change.
Yes, I'm like that. I could
Follow you to a whole new level.
right. Those were so cool,
Yeah, that was cool.
and that they wouldn't know who you were. You could just walk down the street, and be like, "What's up?"
Well, there's some symbolism there too, because Rue in that book is fighting against accepting her Gazani identity, and there's this sort of oppressive desire that she is internalized to minimize herself and to hide herself, because she feels like she has to choose between being herself and being Gazani. And so the costume was supposed to symbolize this comfort in, well, if I could just hide myself, if I could just be someone else, then I'm safe. And that's why I didn't keep the costume, because it'd be cool to have like a superhero character with a cool costume. But for Rue, it was more symbolic that in the end, she pulls off her hoodie at the end of the book, and she says she's
Yeah, I did like that. Yeah, that was cool. It was.
Here
I
she is, completely out of her hoodie.
Yeah. No hoodie.
I know she the hoodie because I love the hoodie, and I wanted the hoodie to read as her safe space for a reason, so people understand what a hoodie is and what it can mean to a kid.
No, it's so true. And it will be 100 degrees out, and my students are still wearing their hoodie. And I'm like, it's really hot out, but they will not part with it. They will not.
More than clothes. It's more than clothes. And
They want to hide all of themselves. And they
Yeah.
put it all inside. Yeah, it's so true.
The relationship between Rue and Bree, did that? I mean, that was a struggle. That was a struggle. Was that based off of any real life relationships that you had, or was that just
Teenagers being teenagers.
I know many Brees. I would think most Black people would agree that we've run across several. But what's important to remember about Bree is that Bree loves Rue dearly. And it was very important for me to make sure that she was depicted in the right way.
the ghost?
So it was important to me to make sure that she was depicted in a way that it was clear, because I know that I have readers coming to my book who aren't going to identify with Rue, who are going to jump into these pages and immediately identify with Bree and love her to death and relate to loving someone like Rue, but not being Rue. Mm-hmm. And it was important for me, for those readers, to understand that it was important for me to let those readers know that I see them. I wanted to do that. I don't think it's my job. I don't think I'm required to, because this book obviously was for people who, I wrote it for kids who identify with Rue, but I put Bree in there intentionally to let those readers know I see them too. Mm-hmm. And it was really important for me to turn up the heat under their butts a little bit and say, and yes, you're capable of screwing up, and here's how. And it happens more often than you might think. Because I do think that allyship and privilege is a tangential conversation to racism, and you can't have one without the other. This Bree is in the sequel. And so the story continues with them. I definitely tried to revitalize the cast, so you meet a lot of new people in the second book. So she's not as focused on, but she is still there. And I'm hopeful that Bree is instructive and empowering for kids, because I want kids reading this book who have friends like Bree who don't really know, like, how do I deal with this? What do I say to them? I want them to understand that it's not their job to educate their friends. You can, out of love and patience, if you have the bandwidth, but it's not your responsibility. And I thought it was really important that Bree reflected that, by letting Bree figure it out on her own. And I understand. I've heard from a lot of white readers that reading brew. That's brew. Okay, reading brew, because this is a term now. That reading their friendship really gave them pause and made them really sort of reflect and look internally, and that meant the world to me, because that's the point. The point is not for those readers to feel hated or ostracized. It's to recognize that you can screw up, and here's how. So.
Yeah, I respect that. Thank you. So you also have like a bajillion other books that you're thinking about and doing. And I read a middle grade series that I'm extremely interested in. It sounds super cute.
I'm so ready for the cover to come out. That is called it's called A Taste of Magic. It's book 1 in my Park Row Magic Academy Inner City Magic School series. It's a magic school in the back of a hair salon.
I love that.
It's so silly and fun. When I wrote this book, this one I wrote in 9 days. When I wrote it,
sorry.
I had to revise it with the
9.
Like,
do you sleep?
Yes.
Oh my God. So envious.
How many hours? No, I need to break that down. Like, how many hours are you writing in a day?
A lot. I average probably,
because it's your full-time job. So
right,
yeah.
But I mean, like, even in a full-time job, you have like lunch break,
4 to 6
and
hours.
around.
How many? 10?
4 to 6.
Oh, 4 to 6. Okay.
Yeah.
But you're just writing fast.
I do. I write really fast, but I do also write with an outline. So, like, for me, from what I hear from writers, most often when they are writing slower, it's one of 2 reasons. And this isn't like hard and fast rules, just things I've noticed. It's either one, they get stuck because they don't know what to write, and so they end up just kind of like sitting there looking at the screen. Or 2, they're paying attention to the prose and being very intentional about their word choice and trying to weave in metaphors and symbolism, and it just takes more thought to do that. That is not typically the way I draft. The book that I'm working on now, I'm drafting like that. But the other books, I sit down with a summary of what needs to happen, and I just execute it.
Right. I just get a story out.
Yeah, I just get the story out. I paint it in my head as vividly as I can, and I describe what I see in my head. And I just write it. And since I have the summary, I don't have questions about what happens next, because the summary tells me.
Yeah. And so then you go back later.
Exactly. I spend a lot of time writing the summaries, because if I have a good summary, kid goes to school, XYZ happens, this is the fallout from XYZ. So then they decide to do this. I know what's next. So I just spit out the words and then I revise them.
And this is middle grade, so the word count is lower.
Okay. It is. Yes, in 9 days, I think it was only like 42K.
Okay.
And so that book comes out next year, late, like around the end of the school year. There's might be some changing of the date. I haven't heard that finalized yet, but keep an eye out on it, an eye out for it. It's on Goodreads. The cover should drop soon. The cover is adorable. I absolutely love it. I feel like it really evokes the tone of the book well. The book is just fun. I wanted it to feel like a hug, because I did. I wrote it to be laugh out loud funny and ridiculous and memorable, and something that you go to because it makes you smile. That is what
this was after. Was this after? This was after Wings of Ebony. Was this before Wings of Gold? Like, where is this fall?
This is when I was out to editors with this book.
Okay.
I was waiting for this to sell, and I had given up. and felt like, okay, it's not going to happen, which is
So
it was totally
kind of like
premature.
the whole thing where you were with
Yeah.
Pitch Wars. It was like I
Yeah.
either wait or I write.
Oh,
The
and
anticipation of failure is very motivating to me.
so,
So
that one, did I read correctly? Was it a preempt deal? Is that what it was?
this was a preempt. The middle grade was an auction.
Fun.
It was really fun, and my publisher is the best. I absolutely love working with them. They're lovely, and they love this story so much. It's a lot of fun. I cannot wait for people to read this one.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one.
So what made you think to write a middle grade? I mean, you'd spent your time in the world of YA, and then you're like, well, just go younger.
Middle grade. Let's do middle grade.
I pulled on my teaching days because I taught that age.
Mhm.
And my kids are that age.
Mhm.
The books they're reading. And so I just let myself be ridiculous and silly. One of my favorite things in the book is Lou. He is a talking stove that spits out pizzas on command. And so, and this his mom is like not available. She's like, if you need anything, just get with Lou. It's like super busy with her activism work. She is an activist for magical creatures. And so my main character, Kiana and Ashley, they just are hanging out and Lou takes care of it. It's so ridiculous. Like security, the people who are the organisms in charge of security for this magical world are ferrets. And they have badges and they're very serious ferrets. They're very cute and a little musty, but they are serious ferrets. It's just ridiculous and whimsical, and like I just love it from page
So
one.
magic is kind of your thing. That's your that if you had a superpower, you would want it to be magic.
That's interesting. My favorite books to read are thrillers. Interesting. But I haven't. I do want to venture into the contemporary world, but I'm just on a magical kick. I am drawn to like really vast, big worlds, though, and so I'm hoping to continue to grow because I have a lot of contemporary readers. I'm hoping to continue to grow my audience with people who love fantasy because I have a lot of fantasy stories, and I want to ease into some of the more broader fantasy ones. Like my next series is very fantasy driven. But I'm excited to see what happens. I would love to dabble in adult one day too. So we'll see.
How about picture books?
That's very difficult. I have tried.
Yes.
It's very hard.
Yeah, she's written some of them.
Conciseness, not my jam.
I know my role.
And pages to make a point.
Yeah, I think that's
with less
harder
than
than
500
a
words.
novel.
500 words is your.
I'm in awe of people who can do that.
Mm-hmm.
I tried and failed. So that's where I stand.
What's on your TBR? Well, you're writing, so you're probably not.
I'm still reading. No, I'm always reading. This one's next to my bed, but Nia Davenport's Blood Trials, which comes out next year. Highly recommend. This is a favorite, which is already out and just.
I saw that one. Yeah, it's good.
If you loved Wings, you'll love this. You'll love it. This is a one sitting read. If you like thrillers, don't even think about the magic part. Even if for contemporary thriller readers, you will be obsessed. For fantasy readers, you will be obsessed. It's just good. Even for horror readers, this isn't like super scary. It's a little creepy. You will be obsessed. There's that, and then this is an arc of a book that comes out next year. That is like.
Oh, I like that cover.
It's sure. So we have the same cover artist.
Oh yeah.
Like very what's that movie?
Avatar.
Yep.
The blue.
This book, I have not been this immersed in a deep fantasy world since like An Ember in the Ashes. This book is for fans of like the Gilded Ones. Anybody who loves Saba Tahir is going to obsess about this book. It just grabbed hold. It grabbed me by the throat and like it was like intense. I loved it. It's a darker fantasy. Oh my gosh!
That's right up my alley. I like the dark.
You're gonna love Blood Scion. That one is one you want to read right now. And then I'm reading a lot of stuff too. Like I'm reading the Jon Snow chapters successively in Game of Thrones because I'm writing my new series, and I'm really into fantasy romance right now.
Yeah.
So
I feel that.
Hush.
Mm-hmm. Is that going to be YA?
It is.
Talk about.
It is YA trilogy or my next YA series. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm very excited for the announcement. I can't say anything about it, but just know that it is delicious. It has all the things. I'm excited about
One of my
it.
favorite words.
So being able to, I mean, now having like Jody Reamer as your agent and everything, like, do you get to go out to New York and chat it up with
Some of the
the
cool
bigwigs?
Not in New York yet. I actually haven't done much traveling. It's really hard to travel during the school year because I have kids in school.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very spoiled when I used to homeschool when we were in the military because we just went wherever we wanted, whenever we wanted. And now we have like all of these, like there's homework and there's weekend things. And I'm like, oh my gosh, where's my free time? So no, I have not been to New York yet, but I look forward to going to squeeze and hug Jodie in person because I am absolutely obsessed with her.
Like, how did that conversation go? I mean, and I don't know if I'm like,
We just want to live vicariously
I just want
through
to know.
you.
I need to know, like, and again, I don't know if you can share, but I mean, like, you start with like one agent, and like, how do you get to another agent? Like, what happens that caused you to get to like Jody? And also, I don't know if I know exactly how you got your first agent. Was it from DV Pit or was it just through querying?
Well, DV Pit is, people express interest and then
Right.
you
So
query.
you started and then you pitched to her.
You query them by email, but it's just in the subject line you put Div Pit,
Yeah.
so they check those quicker. Yeah, that's how I got my first agent. Yeah, and I mean, I don't like to really talk about it publicly because it is more of a private thing, but because agent relationships are very personal, it's very much a relationship.
Yeah.
But I'll say that my former agent didn't do anything wrong or anything like that.
Mhm.
It just wasn't the right fit anymore. Like I was looking for something different. And the hard thing about it is that's why people parallel to like actual relationships so often because you don't know what you need until you sort of tried something out.
Mhm.
Agents have different agenting styles. They have different ways that they do things. And so after being with one agent for a time, I realized, okay, I kind of like a different style. I think I kind of like this. And, I decided to part ways. And Natalie and I still communicate amicably.
Then you have to re-query, or you already passed that bar and you get to just like.
Well, there are no official rules. I don't have any special agents' phone numbers. Typically, when a person is looking for a new agent, you do requery, and then in your query, you say, I'm a previously agented author looking for blah, blah, blah. Because of the timing of when I was shifting agents, my book was already out. I was able to inquire with a few friends and asked about the agents they were represented by to see if they were open. And so conversations kind of evolved that way.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Nice.
Just wondering. I have all the questions. I'm a question person. I'm like, I need to know how this works.
That's me too.
Well, what would you say to? What's your biggest piece of advice to aspiring, especially like women or moms or just anybody who wants to become an author? Yeah. What is your biggest piece of advice for them?
Stop waiting. What are you waiting for? I guarantee you, your kids are never going to be less busy. I feel like they only get busier the older they get. And don't feel like, well, once they're in college, I mean,
then you're like 50 something years old.
Well, it's not even the age piece, but like I feel like college kids are still pretty dependent on their parents in a lot of different ways. And if they're far away from home and then you're like flying out to see them, you just never know. Also, tomorrow's not guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what are you waiting for? If I was talking to moms, because I feel like a lot of us moms put things that we want to do off in the sort of basket of later one day. And I would encourage moms to start pulling things out of that basket because later one day is not promised.
Mm-hmm. You're so right. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. We are so excited. January 11th can't get here soon enough. I'll tell you what.
Y'all are so fun.
I'm going to mentally prepare myself.
Oh, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Who do you ship Rue with, Julius or Jamal?
Jamal.
Really? Not even without question. Okay.
Nope. He's done. Julius, they had their moment.
Yeah, we were
done. I mean, he's great, but like they're done.
I mean, we get it. First love.
In my mind, that movie. It's an old movie. Was it Never Been Kissed or First Kissed or something? Whatever. that when, and I don't know the actor's name, but he's like a
Drew Barrymore?
no. Oh no, it's not never been. It's not. No, it's with He's like a beautiful black god. He is like beautiful, and it's not. It's
older.
It's an older movie. And he walks out of the water. It's something about like, go Stella, get her groove back. Get your groove back.
Oh, Diggs.
Yes, that's who I pictured Jamal to be for whatever reason.
Beautiful black god.
He does. There's that scene where he just like comes out of the like ocean.
That was
You
a
know,
good one.
that's just what I pictured.
Like, woo! Yeah.
Sorry, I took you on
No, sorry. Yeah,
circle
no.
there. My brain.
Just because
We'll have to search TikTok for hashtag Team Jamal. They're definitely very vocal. Team Jamal is extremely vocal. Team Julius is like a lot more low key they're just more chill. Like they're so confident and chill because I don't know, but Team Jamal is very vocal. I have seen love songs acted out on Book Talk. I have seen posters being waved on the side of the road. Honk for Team Jamal. Like, you gotta search the hashtag.
It's hashtag Team Jamal.
Yeah, but remember Jamal is JHAMAL.
Oh yeah, there it is. Oh no, they're not playing.
Oh, how funny! How funny! Oh my gosh, I'll have to look at those.
Yeah, no, I'm on that team.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get shirts.
I love how y'all didn't even think about it. I'm gonna go tell them. I just did an interview and I asked, and they were like, "Duh."
No,
I'm sorry if somebody's gonna call me their queen. I'm like,
I need to see more of him. I need some moment.
Both Jamal and Julius in book 2, and their loyalties will divide. There are going to be people in the Jamal camp, and there are going to be people in the Julius camp. Yeah. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
We'll see who wins in the end. You know, we wore T-shirts for
I was gonna say it, Team Jamal.
No, for Edward and
yeah, we did.
We were Team Edward.
And Twilight.
Mm-hmm.
I still have my shirt.
Yeah, I don't know where mine is.
I don't have a shirt. I have a candle.
I can't.
Hey.
A candle. It says "smells like Edward Cullen." It was a gag gift.
What does he smell like?
Yes, it did.
I just got the candle and I laughed so hard. I literally almost dropped it. I laughed so hard. I don't know. It's just good. It's so funny.
Sandstone.
He smells
spice
like sparkle, sunshine.
Sparkle,
I mean, I totally get. I'm all about that because recently I just bought a little Scentsy pack that has to do with the ACOTAR series, and
I
so.
love new scents. I wanted to do a scent for like influencer boxes for Ashes of Gold, but I never. Maybe one day. I haven't got it. I'm trying to write this book and edit this other book and promo Ashes of Gold. So wait till you see the hardcover though. I haven't seen it in person, but my editor said that it is like more beautiful than you could possibly imagine.
For Ashes of Gold, or
yeah, I'm excited to see what it looks like.
When will we know?
Well, you won't see it until it hits shelves, but copies should start circulating probably like a week before, like at the very end of the year. People should start getting copies, and you should start seeing it on Bookstagram and stuff like that.
Okay, I'll be looking.
fun.
Yes, I'll be looking. Well, thank you so much, JL. We will let you go enjoy the rest of your Sunday here.
Yes, eat your food. That
Yes.
was delivered.
Get your food. And we are all, I mean, I cannot wait for all the things that are coming our way from you. So
Yes,
we'll be watching.
I'm excited to chat again. It was so fun.
Yes, thank you.
yes.
We
Take
will.
care, and maybe we'll see you around.
Yes. In Houston, just randomly.
Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
That's
All
fun.
right, that was great.
Fellow Houstonian, I love it.
Mhm.
I love it. I'm so excited for her story.
I can't wait to see the middle grade. That'll be fun.
I know.
I always like good, laughable,
Whimsical little
laughable
stories
middle
like
grades.
that. Yeah, that'll be awesome. My kids will like that too.
Yeah.
Your kid might like that.
My one child.
Your
my
one
kid,
child.
My kid. Yes. Well, that was fun. Our next interview that we have coming up in December, on December 11th. That is actually a long time coming because
Yes.
last year we tried to interview her for her second book, and I got COVID, so that didn't work. And so now
a COVID Christmas.
It was a COVID Christmas. So now, third book out. It is Wrapped Up in Christmas Hope by Janice Lynn. So we get to now live our, wonderful Christmas.
Yes, our Hallmark Christmas dreams. Right.
I started
here.
decorating yesterday. You can see a little Christmas going on back here, but we will definitely be much more festive come December 11th.
And then a week after that,
we're just popping them out.
We're going to have an announcement. We'll be interviewing an agent, literary agent. We will look for that announcement. We'll
just for agent's sake, not an agent.
All your publishing questions.
Yes,
will be answered.
Anything you want to know, we will make sure. We've got our own.
Yeah, if you have questions, put them in the comments. We will ask those.
Yes. Well, always a pleasure, Book World. Remember to subscribe so you can be alerted when we've got other interviews coming up and other fun little ditties that we decide to, pop on YouTube here once in a while. And we will see you in December. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye.